Okay, this is a week 7 PHP class. Your homework is, your practice lab is using Reg validate, and then your homework is creating a PHP form that has validation in it as well. For both of them, the practice lab, here's the example and the source file. We'll go over the PDF file on this one as well as the homework, and then look at the example, and we'll go over the code. So the first one is this Preg match PDF file. We'll go ahead and go over that real quick. So in PHP, you've got data manipulation using regex, which is just a string validation for input. So we've got, in PHP, a lot of times you've got forms that users fill out, and you need to put in the data in a certain format. And so to do that, we need to validate it somehow. Because if we don't validate input and we try to write, for instance, a string to a date field, it could cause a problem on the database, block up the browser. And so for field validation, input validation will also help us with field validation. So to achieve this, we're going to use some functions within PHP that actually allow us to check values and manipulate data. We first of all do the input PHP functions, and then secondly we'll use a regex expression. There's a lot of helpful information on the web. One, we're not going to look at all of them, but a couple of these that might be referenced and be helpful is on strings, ctype, and datetime, just on some of the functions that would be helpful. Now, useful functions, first one is splitting. Often we need to split data into multiple pieces based on a particular character. For this one, we use what's called the explode function. So the user types in the input of 1/12/2007 with slashes in between. We explode it by putting it into a variable called bits. It's exploded here by the character and then the string. Here's the delimiter that it's actually exploded by and split up by. So we should have 1, then 12, then 2007. To remove excess white space, a user might type in spaces before and after a text string and a text box. Use a trim command or trim function. So the word trim, and in parentheses, the input. Splitting or exploding on this one, you take and explode it again, brings it in. We went over that one. String replace is the next one. To replace all occurrences of a string in another, use a str_replace. So in this example, we have the input of a date separated. You have a dot operator, then a dash operator. Here, they're looking for dot and dash and even slash. Dot and dash actually what's going to be looked for, and then slash is what's going to be replaced with on the input string. Other useful functions for case related: str2 upper, str2 lower, To upper will bring everything to uppercase. To lower will bring your string to lower uppercase to lowercase. And then to make the first letter uppercase, use a UC first. To make the first letter of each word in a string uppercase, use UC words. HTML sanitize. To make a string safe to output as HTML, you can use what's called HTML entities. So the user enters a HTML tag possibly into a text box. You can actually, with HTML entities, it will take and format that in such a way to where it does not mess up your data. A lot of times this could be used if they try to input, do what's called SQL injection as well. More complicated checks, it's usually possible to use a combination of built-in PHP functions to achieve what you want, but sometimes it's just better to, because of complications, to use what's called expressions, which we'll go to now. Regular expressions are a concise way of pattern matching within a string. So you've got, for instance, different flavors of regular expression. You've got Perl, POSIX. We're going to look at the faster, more powerful version Perl for regex. So we have some definitions. First is actual data that we're going to look at here is an email address, rob@example.com. Second is the definition of the string pattern, the reg expression. From here to here is the reg expression. PHP functions to do something with data and reg expression. So you've got preg match and preg replace that we'll use. Reg expressions are complicated. They are a definition of a pattern, usually used to validate or extract from a string. In this regex, you might notice a couple things right off top. You do have the @ symbol. You also do have the dot operator. And we'll look at more of that in a second. So, the regex definition is always bracketed by delimiter, usually a comma, or not a comma, apostrophe, and also slash. So regex PHP matches PHP, I love PHP, doesn't match PHP in all caps, or I love PH. It has to have PHP in the actual sentence, like these two do, or expression. So first impressions, note how the regular expression matches anywhere in the string. The whole regular expression has to be matched, but the whole data string doesn't have to be matched. It's case sensitive, like everything else in PHP. So next is case insensitive for regex. Extra switches can be added after the delimiter. The only switch we will use in this is the I switch to make the comparison case insensitive. So by just putting the I in the PHP, you can now match PHP uppercase and also PHP lowercase and PHP mixed case. It will not match PH because it does not have the entire regex in there. Regex character group, it's matched by character. You can specify multiple options for a character using square brackets. So in this example, the PHP regex, or the regex, is P and then HU P. So a match will be P H, because you can have H or U, or PUP. Doesn't match PHUP because it can only be one or the other, H or U. Pop won't match and PHP will not match. You can also specify character groups. You can specify a digit or alphabetical range in a square graphics or brackets. So here we have P, A through Z, 1 through 3, and P. So matches in this will be PHP will work, PUP will work, PAP, POP, P3P, PHP won't work. They were case sensitive, and P5P will not work because it's only 1 through 3. 5's not in there. Other predefined classes available to the regex. /D matches a single character that is a digit 1 through 9, 0 through 9. S matches any whitespace character, tabs and line breaks. And then W, any word character, alphanumeric character plus underscore. Other PHPX predefined classes, P and then DP. P3P will work, P7P will work. Again, these are predefined. WP, P3P, PHP, POP, this will not work. The dot operator, the special dot character matches anything apart from the line breaks. And repetition, there are a number of special characters that indicate the character may be repeated. Question mark, 0 or 1, star, 0 or more, plus 1 or more, A, comma B, between A and B times. So repetition is used quite a bit within by using repetition operators. And the range operators. Repetition operators can also be used on bracketing expressions to repeat multiple characters. So I want to go ahead and go to the regex example for this week, which is an email address. This is actually what the finished example looks like here. You're supposed to read and do the regex for own practice, not to turn in, remember, just something on your own. But you're supposed to validate a email address. Give you the code here to use for there's two files, email.php and validate.php. You're going to read and perform the below lab, test an email validation, add email to one of your forms, and have it completed. This here you can disregard because it was for last semester. And again, this is just for practice. So, read over the validation notes. First thing is the main page, which is going to be the email.php page. Or you could also name it index.php to load quickly from a folder view. So we have a form action. We're doing a validate.php post. And on the validation page, we're checking using a Preg match, bringing in that post email. If it's successful, it says valid email address processing, otherwise invalid email address. So let's go ahead and play with it real quick on the example here. Here we go. I'll go and type in an email address, and I'll leave something out here. I'll just do cconkle@AOL, invalid. Let's do cconkle@AOL.com, valid. Let's leave the M, valid, because again, you do have more than 2 extensions, or some that do have 2 extensions on the email. One past a dot is invalid. You have to have at least 2. So we could do a CC that would work, or some extensions like that. Now if we left at the add and put a dash, invalid. So it's working. So let's look at the code here for this one. On the email, or I named mine index.php page. That's what I did on mine, just to show you how I placed it on my computer, my XAMPP. Week 7 about practice and homework. In the practice, I did index and PHP, homework, index, and process employee.php. So the practice one around index and validate.php. Let's look at those two files. Here's our form action. We're going to go to validate.php, simple post. User enters an email address with the text input. The name is email, e-email. They hit submit, and on the form here, it's checking email address, displaying success or failure, and it's going to be calling in here. Scroll over there. Post email, using a post email from the prior page. And so this Preg match is actually matching. If it's not a match, this is the not operator here, but it's not a match, reg expression match, and here's the reg expression, it goes to invalid email address, else it goes to valid email address. Now on the take home, or the homework assignment, at the bottom of this page, I do believe I give a URL to a regex.library. This is a good resource to help you. If just a challenge for this one, if you wanted to create another field on this form for maybe phone and validate that, there is the phone validate code for that. If you wanted to do that, you don't have to. That's just a challenge if you wanted to. Again, this is your practice one. This is not graded, but good exercise if you have time. Next is the take home, the one that is graded, that you're going to submit to your external site. This one is actually, again, using a validation form and validating it. So let me pull that up real quick. So let's look at the code on that one here, the final example here. Add employee. So I'm going to leave all these blank right now. You got first name all the way down to password. I believe I'm going to leave add employee. And this tells the user now that some items were not entered, like title of courtesy not selected, first name omitted, last name omitted, title omitted, address omitted, city omitted, so on and so forth. Everything should be omitted or omitted. If I go back here now, I'll just fill in one. I'll just fill in my name, my first name. Now, it says here that Chuck is in here. And if I put last name, maybe title, let's see what we get now. Title of courtesy not selected. So maybe I can come in here and put a title. We'll do Mr. There we go. So we got the whole name now, title. And so it's validating as it's going. Notice it's pushing it to a process.php, process employee.php. It's starting with an index.php. So let's look at the index first. It's a post going to process employee.php, a simple form. Each one of the fields is going to have a name property, first name, last name, title, title of courtesy, 4 radio buttons. They can be a value of Dr., Mr., Miss, or Mrs. Then you have another name property birth date, 1 through 12. Birth year. Hire date. Hire year. Address, city, region, postal code, country, home phone, extension, notes, reports to, password 1, password 2, and then submit. Goes to the process form, pulls in all the posts, and if the posts are empty, equal empty quotes, it's going to push out to that using HTML code here, span style, color red, and it's going to be first omitted, name omitted, span. So all these that have empty quotes will have a span, otherwise it's going to populate the post into the variable first, whatever variable. In this case it's first name. So you have first name, last name. You'll notice if it's empty quotes, if there's nothing in there that they filled out, it's going to populate it here with the span operator. It's saying whatever it was, omitted, red color, style. We get down all the way at the bottom here after you do multiple if-else's. If it's empty, kicks out a message saying it's omitted, otherwise it populates it. Let's go down to the display here. So finally we have the display of HTML information once the PHP code. So in the HTML information we have title, H1 tag. Here's some PHP now. PHP is actually using the variables all the way from title of courtesy down to password, and they're either going to have whatever field name it was, not selected, maybe not omitted, in red, otherwise it's going to be populated. So this one uses multiple if-else's. The first example, the practice one, uses the regex to determine input validation. Input validation on this one is using actual if-else's, if-else throughout to determine. And so totally different as far as validation, but both of them are doing validation. Once you're finished with this one, you can post it as always to, let's go back to your instructions here. So yeah, create a folder on your website, week 7, upload the exercise, and like I said, for my exercise, I put in the take-home, the homework, index.php and processemployee.php. There's the index.php and processemployee.php. If you do that, when you browse out to week 7, it's a lot easier by having the index in the root folder of that. Okay. Other pages here to read prior to doing the homework is the Php Forum page. This goes over just practical PHP form information on designing form in HTML, sending and receiving data from PHP, splitting forms across pages, and validating input. I'd focus closely on this one on validation input. And then the actual homework is from this link here. And you're going to do the exercise processing form input. So after you read all this information, there is an exercise here on processing form input. Right there. Duration is about 40 to 50 minutes, it says. So follow the example here, and it should end up looking like the one I showed you in the example download. also gives you form examples and things of that nature. And as always, I always have the source for this homework where you can download and look at yours to make sure it's close. So that concludes week 7 on using reg validation, regex, and input validation using if-else. Both of them post to other forms. So have a great week. If you have any questions, as always, you can email me.